Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. I'm here with actor, writer Nick Ullett, and our next guest will be singer, actor Abby Travis. Actor, writer, advertising executive Nick Ullett was born and raised in England, where he went to Highgate, an all-boys boarding school, and then Cambridge University. You've seen him on TV, on the stage in Los Angeles, and on and off Broadway in New York. He came to the United States in 1964 as a partner in a comedy team, Hendra and Ullett. You can hear the rest of the story at the theater, where he's now performing in a one-person memoir called Dying is Easy, Comedy is Hard. Nick, you walk onto the stage in a tux, there's a screen, and you start conducting an orchestra of chickens, or
yes.
Chicken choir.
Yes, that's exactly true. Yeah.
Tell us that. Can you say it better than I did?
No, I mean, that's exactly what happens, basically. I'm in full evening dress, a tailcoat, and I come on and I conduct a chorale of chickens. This was actually something that I did with, not the conducting part of it, but that song, that's actually myself and my ex-partner, Tony Hendra. We are the chickens.
No.
Yeah.
Clucking?
Yeah, and the idea was, and it works wonderfully as this sort of metaphor, in this case for cancer, which is that this is a man trying to conduct these chickens, and he starts with one, and then there are 2 and 4 and 8 and 16 until there are thousands of chickens, and they're completely out of control, and so is the man. He can't do anything, and he ends up just,
throwing his baton.
Throwing his baton at the last of the chickens.
And it's all projected on the screen.
Yeah.
So it really does look like you're starting.
Right.
Did you ever do that on the Ed Sullivan Show?
No. And in fact, the sort of, it was a record we made, and at the time AM radio was the big thing. And WABC in New York played this chicken song for 2 weeks every hour.
You're kidding.
No, it was this
your song.
Yeah, you couldn't move in New York. You get into a taxi cab, and and the taxi driver would be going, "God damn song! I wish I could get rid of that." And we go, "That's our song. We're the chickens."
What was it called? What's it called?
It was called the Chicken Song. Although actually, I think it had a name like "Mummy Doesn't Live Here Anymore."
Oh, you're kidding. Did someone write it?
I wrote it.
Oh, you wrote it, so you can't remember the name.
No, well, it's a long time ago. I'm getting old.
But you were.
Why am I here?
1962 with your partner.
No, 1964. We
in London.
Oh yes,
yeah, in London you started.
We started.
But why did you start this with a partner? What were you doing?
Well, I was at Cambridge, and I had always sort of wanted to be an actor. And there is a club at Cambridge University called the Footlights Club, out of which came I mean Monty Python, Beyond the Fringe, just a myriad of British comics, and we just had this wonderful time. We were just constantly trying to be funny, and my partner Tony had a team with a guy called Graham Chapman, who was in Monty Python. But Graham wanted to be a surgeon. So he backed out of the team for the last year, and I had a team with a guy called Richard Stilgoe, who is the guy who, apart from other things, wrote the lyrics to Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it was the Footlighters Club, right?
And he was thrown out of Cambridge. And so Tony and I independently had all these bookings for a comedy team. So we just joined the two acts together.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And once you joined, you were influenced by Jackie Mason.
Well, that was because we graduated from college, and we said, all right, what are we going to do? We'll try and do this for a year. We'll just take it on. And we we'd only been working, I don't know, maybe 6 months or something, and we were in this small club in London, and Jackie Mason showed up, and and he was trying out material because he'd been brought over to headline this really big club, big supper club, and he was dying. I mean, he was just having this awful
because they
time.
couldn't understand him, probably.
Understand him, and so he came down to this club to try out, to try out his jokes and his material. But as he had this, one of his catchphrases was, "You know what I'm talking about? Hey, you know what I'm talking about?" And of course, the English, who are not known for their politeness as audiences, were going, "No idea. You know what he's talking about?" And he would get mad, and he'd go, "When you go to the movies, do you talk to the screens?" Nobody had the vaguest idea what he was talking about.
No, they didn't get it because it was very New York.
Yeah, and it was, and he liked us, so he actually. It was he brought his manager down to see us, and then his manager said, "Come to America."
I was going to say, what brought you to America and the Ed Sullivan Show? That was the influence?
Well, his manager was a guy called Bob Chartoff.
Oh, we know Bob Chartoff.
Yeah, well, so Bob Chartoff and Owen Winkler, who ended up, the producers of Rocky amongst everything else.
When you were doing this on stage, I was going to go, "Excuse me, I know them. I know Irwin too."
And they were,
So Chartoff brought you.
Well, they didn't. What they did was they said, if you show up, come to us. So we did. We literally got on a boat, and we talked. We talked a steamship line, which was the USS United States.
Beautiful.
The fastest boat ever across the Atlantic. And we talked them into letting us do a show in exchange for passage.
Brilliant.
Right? But then we got on the boat, and we did this in March, and I say in the show, if you're taking a transatlantic liner, don't do it in March, because everybody just threw up. And so, we never had to do a show. There was no audience.
Oh, because but you got your passage.
But we got our passage, and so that was how we got there. And then once we were there, they sort of took control of our, theatrical experience over here. And I mean, they did a very good job. They basically worked out that one of the places where we could make some money and make a living was on television. And in many ways, that was a very good commercial choice, and probably for us not such a good idea, because in fact what happened was that we only wrote material that would work on television, and all they wanted was very middle of the road stuff. So that what happened was that we eventually ran out of steam, because we were used to being political and crazy, and they didn't really want that. They wanted us to be, silly Englishmen.
But you were on Ed Sullivan many times.
Yes, 7 times.
And also, I think it was funny because you were British. Was he talking about a hootenanny, and you had no idea what it was?
I mean, we ran across this all the time, And in fact, one of the things about the Sullivan Show was that, in those days, they didn't have a lot of scouts who went out and checked on people.
Oh, they didn't.
And there was no, it wasn't as though people had reels of their material and everything. If you wanted to go on, you would get literally an appointment. You would go into somebody's office in CBS, and then you'd have to try and be funny in an office to a guy behind a desk who in the middle of your act would go, "Just a moment, boys. No mayo. No, I don't want any mayo. All right, now keep going, boys." And it was impossible to, and so we worked out that if we wanted to do more Sullivan shows, what we needed to do was to let them see us in front of an audience. So we started to do things like the warm-up before the thing. And once we did a warm-up that was a terrific piece of material. We introduced it very seriously as a dance piece, and that it was a fan dance. And then we got up.
Did you use your guitar?
No, we got up, and we each had like 8 by 10 pieces of white cardboard, and we covered ourselves with the white cardboard, and then we did this silly dance, and with two grown men dressed all in black, doing this silly dance, and then we would change the white cards, and then we'd do a little bit more of it, and then we would change the cards again, and Tony would lose one of the cards. So now he had to tear his card in half. So, and he
in front of the audience.
Yes, and so it would get smaller. Well, the audience is screaming with laughter, and we're going, oh boy, we got another Sullivan show in the, And when we finish, the audience is applauding and carrying on, and we look over, and Sullivan's no longer there, and Bob Preck, the producer, is standing there, and he's going, oh, Ed hated it.
Oh!
And we went, what do you mean Ed hated it? He said, Ed said you were pretending to be naked.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we were, yeah, of course we were. That was the point of it.
And you were fully dressed.
Of course we were fully dressed. And we had to, we immediately.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
That's not in your show.
No.
You better put that in the show because I think it's very funny.
Oh, yeah.
And then you were also a front person for Lenny Bruce in this Catskills.
Well, that was the very first booking we got, was to be the opening act for Lenny Bruce, which was insane. I mean, it was also very exciting.
Yeah.
But Lenny was arrested twice that week and eventually carted off. I mean.
Then did you get to finish the shows?
Yeah, no, we kept going, and actually they brought in a guy called Professor Irwin Corey.
Oh, I remember, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And then so you fronted for.
Yeah, and I mean
those are very historic things that you're
Yes.
talking about now, and you're bringing it all together at the what's the name?
At the Matrix Theatre.
The Matrix
on
Theatre.
Mondays only.
Yes,
Right.
but the Matrix is right. Is it on Melrose?
It's on Melrose. It's 5 blocks east of Fairfax.
It's fantastic. It's a great house. It really
Yeah.
wraps around. It's a
Yeah.
small theater, but you can
Right.
play the whole
Yes,
whole
it's
stage.
a lovely house, and
But
yeah.
before we get to any more of that, because you're telling us what is in the show, this is also in the show. And from 72 to 77, you were in this big advertising agency,
Yeah.
J. Walter Thompson.
Well, like all actors, I got broke.
You had to work.
I had to work, so I dreamt up, basically. I mean, I virtually sort of talked my way into advertising, and I had a wonderful time in
That's
advertising.
brilliant, because all you had to do was write, and that was what you were used to doing.
Yes. But this is one of the problems with corporate thinking, because I say at one point in the show that I eventually really didn't like it, even though I was very successful, which is that there is a sort of corporate thinking. One of the things is this thing that I think is called the Peter Principle, which is that when you get successful, I was really good at dreaming this stuff up, and then they said, well, that's good, but if you want more money, then you've got to produce it as well.
I see,
So
yeah.
then you take that on, and then they say, well, now we're going to put you in charge of other people. Well, I'm not supposed to be in charge of other people.
You don't want to be a boss.
I'm not a good boss, and I ended up, in fact, running the entire LA office of J. Walter Thompson out here.
Oh, you
I was the
did.
creative director. That's the guy who well, it was chaos. I mean, all I wanted to do was sit around and dream up advertising.
Like Close-Up.
Well, like the Close-Up
That
campaign,
was
which
like
is
the
what
big thing, and you run that on the screen
Right,
in
yeah.
the show, which is
Right.
so fabulous,
Right,
because we
right.
all remember that.
Yeah, and it was also, I mean, that was an interesting experience, because that was something that happened, out of nowhere. It took me 6 weeks of constantly calling this one guy at J. Walter Thompson before they would eventually agree to give me a job. And it was really, the lowest level job, and I was in a cubicle and things. And then I got lucky. I mean, basically, because I wrote this campaign for Close-Up called "Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is,"
Which is great.
and it then ran for 5-6 years, and it was an amazing experience to go. I mean, I was really on the down and out. I mean, I had this kid who was 1 year old. I had a marriage that was really just dissolving around me. Everything was falling apart. I was living I was borrowing money from people. I mean, it was a terrible time.
So 4 Wives Later,
Yeah,
4 Wives Later, a show.
Of course you would bring that up.
Right, I'm sorry. But I think before we leave, I know your guitar is very close to you. You bring that on with you.
Right.
I think is, what is it? Just
What?
a prop?
No, I mean, you want to hear something from the show, or what?
No, I want you to just hold your guitar, and before we leave, I want to remind you and remind our guests that you said one of the things that you did learn being on the stage and working all of
Yeah.
your lifetime is revenge is the greatest
right.
healer.
Yes, that's true. There is nothing like revenge. It's
I love it.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you
Don't
very
go
much.
away. We'll be right back with Abby Travis. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. I'm here with singer, composer, actress, Abby Travis, who was born and raised in Los Angeles. She graduated from University High School, spent a short time at USC, and studied music in the San Fernando Valley at the Dick Grove Academy of Music, which so many musicians went to, even though it's not in existence now. In the 80s, the Love Dolls, an all-girl punk band in Los Angeles, had a huge following, and their bass player was a 16-year-old Abby. Was there music in your family?
Not a lot.
Why'd you pick up a bass?
Because the guitar player in the Love Dolls was dating my older brother Dave, and they needed a bass player, and she kind of liked the way I dressed, and I brought the average age of the band down by about 5 years.
That was good.
And I had given her a tuna fish sandwich at the house once, so that was, in that era of music, that was enough qualification to get me in the band. So.
Where'd you get your bass?
We bought one through the recycler.
And my daughter did the same thing. She bought a bass, and I went, "What are you doing with that huge thing?"
Because your daughter played upright bass. Yeah, I
Exactly.
played the bass guitar.
Oh, you played the bass guitar.
Yes.
Oh, I'm glad you made that clear.
Yeah, I'm not too.
So
happening
then,
on upright.
I got it. Then you really had to know what you were doing.
Well, I took some lessons and I learned fast. And the Love Dolls were a band that they were spawned from these underground movies called Desperate Teenage Love Dolls and Love Dolls Superstar.
Oh, that's what it was?
That my friend Dave Markey made. And so some of the music that the band did was written and recorded by this other band called Red Cross. And the guy that plays bass in that band, Steve McDonald, is a fantastic bass player. So I got to kind of learn how to play bass by learning his bass lines, and it was really great because he's still a really amazing bassist.
Did you learn any of that at the Dick Grove School?
No, I went to Dick Grove like in my 20s. I joined the Love Dolls when I was 16.
Oh, so you already knew how to play. Why did you go to that school then? Why did you choose it?
Well, the real reason I did that was when I was younger, I would get so frustrated because I would hear a lot of music in my head, and by the time it took me to be able to get it out of my head and either like on paper or figure out what I was hearing, I'd forget it, and it was like this horrible, frustrating loop. So I went to music school so that I would be able to process information more rapidly, and it's helped me a lot in terms of all the work I do as a bass player because I can learn songs really fast now. So
the school helped you do that. Did you? And you compose. So did they teach you how to compose as well?
Yeah, I wish that I had taken more arranging classes when I went there. But it really helped me with my harmony and learning how to like harmonize melodies and transition between. If you're ending up here and you want to start out there for the next part, how do you get there?
Did you ever sing with the Love Dolls?
I did some singing in my second band, The Rails. That was when I started
the
singing.
Rails.
Yeah, that was a small band.
Was it a girls' band too?
No, it was me and two guys. It was a power trio.
Oh, it was a power trio. You were the power.
Well, there was three of us. We all had power.
Let's go back to the Love Dolls because it broke up, right? Eventually?
Yes.
But why do those bands break up? That's the longevity that I think we talk about. There's so many factors. It's a good band. It's very popular. Everyone's following it, and yet it still breaks up. It doesn't have a life.
I think, I don't know why that band particularly broke up because they went on after I left the band. So they had another bass player named Sharon. So I can't speak precisely, but I know that also, sometimes having a following doesn't translate into having a viable career, and so sometimes when people grow up they want to get a job, and I know there was a lot of drugs and stuff that some of the people in the band took, but not all of them, and I don't want to name names.
Like there was like drug stuff, but is there always this kind of push to someone to be in front? Because I've seen that happen too, like somebody wants to be the solo person, the star.
Well, I don't think there was so much in that band because the real leader of that band was the guitarist because she was the principal songwriter. And they actually went through 3 different singers. So it was her. I mean, I always thought of it as Kim's band, you know.
So what is the trick of keeping something together? How did the
have no
Rails
idea.
stay together?
I don't know because the Rail after I left the Rails they broke up. So you know it's just hard.
I
you
know.
I know one band that are friends of mine did something that was pretty smart where they split all of their publishing evenly regardless of who wrote most of the songs.
Oh, so that's a problem.
That's a help. Yeah, because one thing that happens sometimes with bands is like the drummer gets mad because they don't write as many songs, and then they see like the singer and the guitar player making all the money, and they're like, well, you know, it's so keeping, you know, having a more socialist like cash flow thing can be an idea, or like. You know, what I do with my own music is, it isn't a band, it's just I'm the dictator,
Well,
but benevolent and interested in what you have to say. you
That's
know?
right. What's wrong with that? I think it's great if you're a benevolent dictator.
Yeah, I mean, and also...
It gets things done.
It's sometimes too many, you know, it's like the too many chefs in the kitchen thing.
I wondered about that because it's very difficult to keep a group together all the time.
It is.
The other thing is you, at your young age when you were still playing bass,
I still play bass now, though.
you still play bass.
Yeah,
You're
that's
still
what I
playing
do.
bass. That's your life.
Yeah, well, it's a big part of it, yeah.
You play for Beck and
No, I did.
and you did, yeah, and the Meat Puppets. How did those
No,
come?
I sang with them. I don't.
Oh, see, you
my
sang.
Friend, my friend Chris, I sang like one track with them on an
See,
album.
I wondered because that voice is a singer's voice, isn't
Yeah.
it? Did you train singing?
I took some voice lessons in my teens. I did with this guy that was an opera guy named Ron Anderson.
Really?
And then I haven't had any training in a long time. For
You mean we
vocals.
could have seen you on the stage in the opera down at the
I don't know if I
music
ever
center?
had the pipes for that. Really, I don't know. I mean, I don't.
You're tall and great.
I'm wearing high heels though.
No.
Yeah.
But how did you get those gigs to play with?
All these bands.
Yeah.
Sometimes by trying out, and a lot of times by word of mouth. Usually, it's other musicians that have recommended me for things, and you know that's
I see.
like how I.
Is it like studio work or not?
I do more live touring work. I'd like to do more studio work as well, but I do a lot. Like I'm leaving. I'm going to do a few shows in New Orleans with a band called the Eagles of Death Metal, whom I love. And then in November, I'm going out with a band called Masters of Reality, who are awesome too. So
What do you do with them? Tell us exactly.
bass.
So you're going to go to New Orleans.
yes,
And give me a little rundown of what you do. You leave LA.
we leave LA. We get on the plane. We get to the airport. No, kidding.
No, but really, do you drive or do you go on the plane?
You
Yeah.
fly. If it's a one-off like that, you fly because it's it
Takes forever.
Yeah. And then we get,
And you get there and somebody picks you up?
or there's a van that we take to the hotel or whatever. I think on this trip, actually, the night we arrive, I'm going to do a little solo show at a small club in the Quarter. And then the next night...
So you go right there. Do you have to do sound checks and
I'm
things
not
like
going
that?
to for the little thing that I'm doing. It's at like a tiny club,
Uh-huh.
but that this big. And then the next night we'll play at this wonderful club called One Eyed Jacks.
Ah, yeah.
And we'll do a sound check there. And
So
then
you go there early in the afternoon then, or what do you do? Go
it
early in
depends
the
on
evening?
when the singer wants to get there,
I see.
and when it just depends. And then the night after that we're playing at a festival called Voodoo Fest. And sometimes at festivals you don't really get to do a sound check because there's a bunch of bands playing in a row. So you do
So how
something
do you
called
do?
a line check.
What is that?
You're just making sure all your stuff's plugged in and you have a basic sound.
Oh, okay.
Rather
they
than
can hear
actually
you.
doing like a whole song
I
or
see,
working on
I
something.
see.
Yeah.
So you've developed a solo career along the way, right?
I'm working on it, yeah.
You write your own music?
Yes.
And who plays it? Ta-da! Glittermouth.
I play, on that record I play bass and some keyboards, and then I get other people sometimes to play keyboards who are better than me, and definitely people to play drums and guitar, and I know a bunch of wonderful musicians because I've been doing this for so long.
Yeah.
So
So the name is fantastic. Tell us what's on this CD.
oh God.
Glittermouth.
May I take a look?
Please.
Thank you. Well, this one's kind of an amalgam. It's got some glam, it's got some pop, There's some trip hop that I did with a guy called Lamont Hyde. That it's sort of
Hip hop?
No, trip hop. It's sort of like when white people hybrid with hip hop people. It's called trip hop. So it's not.
Are there
like,
words to it?
Yeah, there's words. There's singing. It's kind of like there's a band called Portishead that are really wonderful. There's some stuff on here that's.
So how do you do? What do you do?
Well, he comes up with beats, and then I play bass, and then we switch. I mean, that only happened on this record, but it was a fun experiment. So. Yeah, this is kind of a selection of songs from the time period of which it was made. My favorite songs on here are Now Was and Blythe, I think. Shoot for the Stars.
Going on, talking about developing your own career, tell me a little bit about cabaret pop. What does that mean?
I think it's just a term that people use to describe, music that's influenced by, cabaret. A lot of my music is not in 4/4. It's in 3/4 or 6/4, sometimes 6/8. So waltzy for regular people. That means it's waltzy sounding.
I see.
And there's a certain amount of it that has kind of a Eastern European influence, I would guess. Not
so that's
really,
cabaret pop in a way.
Well, that's what I do. That some people call cabaret pop.
I see. I see. Have you performed in Europe?
Not with my own music. I have as a bassist in other acts, but I would love to take my music there.
We're just about ready to finish,
Great.
but first I want to know who does your clothes for the stage?
It depends. Usually, I just kind of try and it's kind of fun actually figuring out what the appropriate look is for whatever band.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
working
what I
with.
wondered.
I love costuming very much. I enjoy it.
The other thing, really quickly, is when I went on your website, you have this great thing that's called Dear Abby.
Oh, Abby Dearest.
Abby Dearest
Yeah.
instead of Dear Abby,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think everyone should go on there and find out what advice you have for these poor little 13-year-olds who want to be cool.
And a lot of them I think are
hip.
little goth kids, and they're really cute.
I know.
It's very cute.
Abby, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
And don't go away. Come back tomorrow. You can go away because you have to write a letter to jaquinn1@aol.com. Email me or 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles 90017. Bye.